My name is Damali Vidot. I'm a city councilor at large in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and I'm running for state representative for the second Suffolk district, which includes Chelsea and Charlestown. And I topped the ticket in November. I didn't have any expectation to run for state representative. My opponent and I have always been very friendly. However, at the height of COVID, there was a real lack of leadership across the state, well, across the country, period, where I felt that folks weren't taking this. It was almost like people were so shocked by the pandemic that they weren't showing up. I mean, you had the governor saying that he didn't want individual municipalities to release numbers. We knew here in Chelsea that we had the highest numbers in the state. So it was starting. So we had to, I was putting pressure on the governor. We got a pop-up pantry going in different areas of the city. I'm sitting in my office one day, this room, and I look out my window and there's a pop-up pantry outside. And I see mothers with small children waiting hours to get a box of food to feed their kids. And it lit a fire inside of me. And I said, listen, how are we going to trust that after this pandemic, the same people that perpetuated the cycle that led us here, and that, because food insecurity and housing insecurity isn't new, it's always existed, but the status quo has been able to turn the other cheek. So how can we trust that they'd be the ones to get us out of this mess? I can't trust that. I think there's a lack of leadership, lack of representative leadership. I think that we have people that have been in these positions. They believe that these positions are positions that they've inherited somehow and that it belongs to them. That we have a distorted view of what power is. That power is how many people in the suit can agree on something, when I know that the power is amplifying the voices of the people in the district. I know that power is building with my neighbors and those that are marginalized and figuring out where are our shared values. I think it comes with the lack of transparency. I think that is huge. As I said earlier, in Chelsea specifically, we we noticed when there was, so when I first ran for office in Chelsea, even though we're a majority Latino community, there weren't any Latinx folks on the city council. And so regular old folks from the community ran, folks that you never would expect to run for office. And then we had a majority Latinx city council. Once people in the community started to see, oh, my neighbor is a city councilor. Oh, government is so tangible. Oh, they're actually talking to us about issues on social media, and they're sharing documents with us, and they're informing us. They started to get more involved. So I think transparency is something is huge. We often tend to shame the voter. We often tend to say, oh, shame on you for not getting involved, when the burden of responsibility comes on those that hold the power. I mean, we go out looking for the voters when we're seeking votes, right? So we should be looking for them when we're looking to make decisions that would directly affect them. I mean, we also have to give credit here where it's due, to the Old Boys Network. I mean, power is held tightly by these groups, and it's not just the old boys, but there's a lot of old girls that enable and perpetuate that system. So we have to give that. But they create this powerful network that, and have used the legislature in a way to kind of shield themselves. And we give too many passes to old leadership, while our communities are drowning, like literally drowning in debt and health problems and disparities because of climate change. We are drowning. And so they protect each other, and so we need to do better. That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that that's what it is, because it's not what government should be. And I see the difference that it's made here. And though I know it's a much smaller level, but even in Chelsea, I see what the difference it's done in having leadership that is inclusive. And I would love to see that on a grander scale. In city council, we don't have the option to not vote or not be transparent. You can't vote present. So if you don't want to vote, you just don't show up that day. And we see some people do that. I have taken some very tough votes. Votes that the one in particular that when I look back, I'm like, I don't know that I would do that again. Um, but I feel that the question should be, when will I not stand up for roll call? Because I want my constituency to know where I stand 1000% of the time. So when will I stand for roll call? Feel like the short answer is always. Yeah, yeah. I've been able to also work with a conservative Republican.
Hmm.
I say this story all the time. That was on the city council because I found alignment in our values, and it didn't always need to do with politics. Although we had a love of process and a love of transparency and a love of family and good food, and so we built there. And so we were able to kind of work on a couple of things. And when we disagreed, it was fine. It was still respectful and have a good day. Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Bye bye. But um, that I think that maybe that's what's missing too in a lot of the leaders that we see now, is that it's almost like I have a D by my name and this is what I'm supposed to do. I have an R by my name and this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, what if we try to build somewhere different? Like, is it possible that maybe we can work on something together, that we could build at our intersectionality and on what aligns us? So I just wanted to make sure to note that, because while I still and I know that in politics there will be a need to compromise or to negotiate. That while I'm willing to do that, but I won't, not if the decision is rooted in the oppression or further oppression of the district that I represent. So I'm willing to negotiate, but I'm not willing to compromise my values. We are an immigrant community. We are a majority minority community. The disparity in Charlestown between a white family and a black family is literally like over 50, 60, $70,000 a year. We have high addiction rates. We have high asthma rates. I think the burden of explanation would fall on whoever would want to cut any resources to a community that is so plagued with all of these issues, socioeconomic issues. So I how would I respond? I would call them out. I believe in call-in culture. I believe that we don't always have to call out people. I believe we call in, we talk about it, we create dialogue, we figure out how to work through it. But if somebody would be willing to cut a community or communities that are so strapped already and hamstrung by all the issues around us, and cutting them off at the knees, I think the burden of explanation falls on the oppressor.